So I'd like to talk a little bit about bias in judges. So whether it's immigration court, whether it's criminal court, whether it's like that Kyle Rittenhouse case in Wisconsin, we can see that that particular judge has so much bias, it's unreal. If you know he was a judge based on what he's doing, you would definitely think he's a white racist who is out to help in any way he can without being impartial the defendant in a murder trial. Um, I've seen, as I've gone through years and years of trials, things like this that happen, and essentially it makes it incredibly unfair. It doesn't allow justice to be done, and it essentially shows the United States how a biased, racist judge can influence the proceedings. Let's talk for a minute about this Kyle Rittenhouse case and a couple things that have come to light. In the beginning, when they were doing pretrial motions, and the judge made a ruling that he didn't want the people who were shot dead to be called victims, because he gave his analysis that he said that carries a loaded description. It's a loaded term. It has a lot of meaning to it, and wouldn't let them refer to the people who were shot by an assault rifle be declared as victims. But then what did he do? He allowed them to be referred to as rioters, looters, and so forth. How can that not be loaded? How can that not be in the favor of the defendant? If you're going to not allow them to be called a victim, you can't allow them to be called a rioter and looter either. That is an absolute injustice to, in the very beginning, deny the reality of what they are. They were victims. They were victims because they were alive, and after they were shot, they were dead. So, if the judge is going to rule one way, he's got to rule the other way to make it fair. Okay, so that was one thing. And then there were multiple things that I've seen in this trial that lead you to believe that the judge is, number one, racist, and number two, doing everything he can to bend over backwards for this defendant. I don't know if you saw, but there was a picture of the judge with the defendant, the kid defendant, standing behind him, looking at, I think it was a computer screen. He had someone who was on trial for murder standing behind him, not in shackles, not with a deputy, not with protection, but in his suit, just standing there. Like if you just saw that picture, you would honestly thought that kid was his grandson or something like that. It's unreal that you would actually see a defendant in a murder trial just standing behind the judge voluntarily, either looking at the computer screen or getting a picture, whatever it happened to be. I've just never seen it, so I can't even tell you what it was or why he was doing that. Even attorneys don't stand behind the judge. You just don't do it. Even when we're doing trial and we have to give something to the defendant, or the judge has even asked for something, we say, may we approach the bench? And then you approach, you hand it to the bailiff hands it to the judge. And that's not even in criminal trials. Okay, that's in civil or immigration. So can you imagine what a juror thinks? That this judge is getting chummy with the defendant by having him stand so close behind him? How he feels so safe. Can you imagine the message that's going to the jurors? I mean, these jurors have to do what they have to do in order to give as fair a decision based on the evidence. But part of what they see is this judge bending over backwards to make, I'm honest, to basically make it so this defendant can walk. a lot of times when the judge made the various decisions he did, and I know this is, backseat driving as an attorney, but if a judge makes a decision that is so inflammatory, so biased in the middle of trial, you can do what's called an interlocutory appeal. That's where you appeal it up to the appellate court just for that particular issue, even though the case is still going. And then, the appellate court issues a quick decision on it and then sends it back down. So if this does go the way many people think it will, where this kid who brought his assault rifle to and claims that he wanted to protect a building and ends up walking free. We'll see what happens, but I suspect that there'll be an appeal, an immediate appeal, based on the fact that the judge was not impartial. The judge was the farthest thing from impartial. You should have seen him when he was reading the jury instructions, just, obfuscating the issues and making it so confusing that, a juror would have a difficult time running down the path to show that this person was guilty. Well, anyways, that's my 2 cents. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully, again, if it comes back where he's, free and so forth, and discharged of any wrongdoing, and if it's later determined that it was because of the bias of the judge, it should go up on appeal, so that, the state gets a fair shake. Okay.